Good afternoon once again, folks. Welcome to Hack Outside the Box Studio on the Go. We are live remotely on site with a very dear friend of mine, Barry Van Kampen. Barry, welcome to Hack in the Box Studio on the Go, Unplugged.
Really good to be here.
It's great to be here. I first got to know you playing around with Arduino programming. You were the person who inspired me on the Maker track. Honestly, we made the Knight Rider LED lights. I learned what it was to work with microcontrollers. And before then, my background was all about microcontrollers are a thing that circuit designers do, and we just program them. And after that, I walked out. I discussed with my father, and we came to a realization that the microprocessor is the new transistor. That opened up a whole world of make for me. And then our journeys have crossed many times with different ideas, with Hack in the Class, with your thoughts on bringing this to children. And now you're doing something completely different in the same space. So what's your
It's nice you're mentioning that my first Arduino classes I gave were a start of something new. Yes. And I see it as a journey, actually. So what I do now is also still part of that journey. When I first found my Arduino, my microcontroller program, I came up with the idea, hey, listen, this is a technical thing we can use in a broader way. So we can also use this for example 2 classes and teach kids how to use this Arduino, because it's really simple and easy to start with. Where soldering was still a bridge too far sometimes.
Actually, yes. You know what soldering was? Oh, we can't do this with the kids because they'll burn, and it's burned my finger. It's permanently burned over here.
Remember, if it smells like chicken, you're holding it wrong. But in this journey, and especially with Hack in the Box, we made some steps over there, and the steps over there, in my opinion, were always to educate people, and now young people, to have knowledge about techniques, about IT skills, and about security. And I always am finding a way to have this discussion and this talk. How can we take this to the next level? And so Hack in the Class was there, where we were not only using the Arduinos, but also using a capture the flag competition in a way, where they were able to hack. And later on, this was growing. But I came up with some ideas during this journey. This is not scalable in a way, for example. And I think also we as professionals, we are responsible for keeping our next generation safe. And give them the luggage to be sure that they have a future which is cyber safe. So about 2 years ago, one of actually my hacker friends, she was working at the Dutch National Police. She came to me and said, "Hey Barry, listen, I want to set up a prevent team, offender prevent team to be exact, to be sure that we are able to gain that there are coming less criminals instead of we are going to catch more criminals."
Yeah, exactly. Why don't we reduce the supply?
Yeah. And in that way, the Cyber Offender Prevention Squad in the Dutch police system was being born. It's altogether COPS, which is a kind of funny shortness of the whole thing. And within this COPS, I'm one of the digital specialists, and to create the bridge between the technique and the criminals in a way. And these criminals can be young, they can be old in a way, but especially because we were doing this Hack in the Class lessons, etc., I am very focused on the youngsters. It's also my personal motivation.
Yes.
And during the past 2 years we were working on that, we gained a lot. We worked together with other law enforcement, for example, with the NCA in the UK. They were doing offender prevention, and they found out that if you are a gamer, for example, the chance that you're becoming a cyber criminal is much larger than you're playing dominoes at home, for example.
That's an interesting point. I totally get what you're saying. The problem is when this type of statement gets out, the media projects it like gaming is bad, and that is the completely incorrect conclusion to draw.
I totally agree with you.
I know what folks want, like what folks like me want. We want excitement and we want challenge. Games give us that challenge.
Yes.
But if we don't have that ability to use these skills in real life, we may end up using them for the wrong purposes. But all we're doing is just tagging on challenges.
But I see it as a positive challenge in a way, because if we are able to work, for example, with the gaming industry, which we do, I don't know if you know ISL Gaming, which is a quite large gaming.
My gaming stopped with Pac-Man and Tetris.
Okay. So there are no competitions on Pac-Man.
The gray hairs, you got to look at that.
But for example, we are talking together with ISL to see, hey, is it possible that we are going to educate people who are going in the wrong way? So gaming, it's a risk, but it's also an opportunity there.
Definitely.
If you're going to cheat with a game, why is the game not showing you, hey, the thing you would be doing is not allowed? Yeah. So, but if I'm taking that pathway of gaming, for example, also cyber criminals are using that path to put you in their system.
Right.
And so on that pathway, we came up with the idea, not only this pathway, but a multiple pathway. Why can't we create interventions that these offenders are having a better future instead of behind bars? Right. And so we have it's called a 4D approach, and the first D is deter. So if we don't deter these youngsters, for example, that, hey, this is allowed and this is not allowed, that also be honest, if we don't tell them, it's also our own fault.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. And especially on schools, this is working very well. Like initiatives like Hackshield, they are focusing on the primary school where kids are very young and to motivate their cyber skills in a positive way. But also their protection skills, like, hey, you have to use two-factor authentication or you have to use a strong password, which is, in my opinion, very important to start very early, because if you get it into the system of these kids very young, they will follow up in the future.
In fact, I think it is now a necessary survival skill in the digital age. Like, we in school were always told that there's norms of safety, right? When I went to school, this was the early 80s, we could walk out of school, catch a rickshaw and then go home, no problem. Or we could bicycle back. Things change. I mean, in the 90s, you have to make sure that the right person's going to pick you up, and this kind of got into everybody's system that this is how you're going to be safe. It's a known thing. It's societal education.
True.
And we need to bring that societal education in the digital space right now. Because things are moving too fast, too rapidly.
Agree, and technology is also getting more and more involved in our life. So the impact of technology, if it goes wrong, is also much higher.
Yes.
But the educational part is for prevention, offender prevention, is really important, and we approach it on multiple levels: primary school, but also secondary school. We developed a game with the Dutch National Police. It's called Frame, where possible offenders, they're going to be confronted by playing a game on their phone, and they're going to be tricked to commit cybercrime. And in the end, it's a path, or they get a warning by the police. Hey, the thing you did is not allowed by law X, Y, Z, or they even are coming behind bars and to jail. So they see, there's a fine on this, and so they will be informed. But that's the secondary school, but this is for the youngsters. What I personally also like, if we are informing the youngsters in these ways, why shouldn't we also educate the elder, the moms and the daddies, And this is one of my favorites, and why I really like Hackshield a lot, because there are quests there who are helping the kids to talk with their parents. Because in all this offender prevention I've seen, there is usually always a gap between the parents and the kids where it goes wrong. Later in this stage where they become a criminal, there's there's at least 75% an issue over there.
It's a communication gap. It's a communication gap and a generation gap too.
Yeah. So information is important. Another thing which is important, we have a lot of youngsters who are very interested in this profession, and I see it as the pearls of our world. But they don't have alternatives. And when I talk about alternatives, when we were young, it was still possible to use a whistle and blow in this phone, and with 2600 hertz, and you get the operator. And the thing we did with that was, was formally not allowed, but the damage was much smaller. But nowadays, you're just one click away from hiring DDoS. You just fill in your credit card number, and your school will be down for minutes or hours if you want. So the chance that you are taking these wrong steps are also getting higher. And I think it's also important that we give them an alternative. So by playing online war games or playing with CTFs, getting the right education already from young level.
Actually, CTFs are the ultimate challenge. It's a great channelization of energy, and I see that happening with Hackshield and Hackright and all the initiatives that you've been involved with since I've known you. You're right. I had a question. So, what type of paths are hooks to cybercrime? Like, what is it? You mentioned DDoS as one thing. Like, okay, I really had a bad day at school, and I want to just, give it back at them. I'm going to hire this DDoS service and blast their electrons out of space.
Mm-hmm.
What else? Like, what else gets it? I know back in the day it was like carding and password tracking.
But there are many.
What's now?
One of the things which happens a lot, which is more on the gaming path I spoke about, is that kids are into gaming and they want to find cheats. And from cheats, they are maybe taking the step on developing cheats. And this will be
the cheat set.
Yeah, and this will be communicated through gaming forums. But on these gaming forums, organized crime is also available.
Yes.
And so it's already closing to each other, and they see that some kids are developing really nice code, for example. They will be contacted by, hey, I see you're coding very well. Can you make me a payment module because I have this website? And those kids are really good into coding. They won't make this step like, hey, this is a criminal activity, because it feels like, hey, this is a normal thing. He needs a payment module for his.
And next thing you know, it's Kronos.
Yeah, it's taking in steps over there. And on my personal side, we have friends, and their son is really brilliant into coding, and he was acting in that direction. And I'm happy that I was in his surrounding, and his parents were talking about it.
See, this is like, I never knew that, right? I always tell myself that I come to conferences to learn. Today I learned something new. I'd never seen that this would be a possible path.
It's one of the paths.
It totally makes sense. Totally does.
Another path which is very interesting is more the cyber-enabled crime route. It's really easy to make money sometimes through a way, and they don't always if it's legal or not.
And how?
For example, take a look on WhatsApp fraud. It means that, okay, I'm contacting you, you're saying, hey, mom, my phone number has been changed because I lost my phone, and this is my new number.
I see. Yeah, the classic. I'm stranded in the UK and I ran out of cash. And can you Western Union me the money?
Yeah. So it's actually quite an old modus operandi.
Yeah.
But the new thing on there is that this is still real crime.
But how does, let's say I'm a student, how do I get involved in that WhatsApp?
Well,
what's the path there?
The path there is not in the initial opening of the criminal activity. It's more on the end. So in the Netherlands, it happens a lot that they become a way to make from money transfers real cash money. So some youngsters who are not thinking about it, they are lending out their credit card because somebody's paying there €100. Well, hey, can I use your banking card or your credit card for a week? And I think, hey, I can make easy money for that. Main thing over there is that in the end of the path of this cyber-enabled crime, you also see that youngsters are being involved. Yeah, and I think also, if you're going to take a look on cybercrime or cyber-enabled crime, I think this is a part where education is also really important.
Definitely. In fact, if you know what you're getting into and what the tunnel ahead contains and what monsters lie there, you'd probably make a choice and not do that.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. You just lured in because it's unknown, it's exciting at first, and then it's like too late. You're in there.
But it actually is a kind of form of phishing where you trick people, and I didn't expect it, but in the past year we have found a few phishing panel builders who were underage actually. Yeah, and you have to think about, okay, how did this happen? And if you're going to talk to them, and they were talking about, I didn't know there were real victims. They don't make the real world.
It was just a game.
It was a virtual world. What can ever happen? So, and
it's like Ender's Game, right?
Yeah,
it's exactly like Ender's Game.
Yeah. So I think it's really important to put at least the educational part again in there, and if they don't catch the alternative to have this challenge, it's really important to take the next steps over there. So it's degrade and disrupt. Where we were first talking about the 2Ds, we're over a little bit more, hey, we treat you nice, we tell you, and if we give you alternatives. Now we're talking about, okay, I'm really stepped into criminal activities because I choose. And there it's coming interesting, and there are a lot of operations there I can't talk about, but things we can talk about is, okay, if we are talking about online image, this is very important for this criminal world. Yeah. So if we degrade their reputation, for example, like, hey, I'm not trustable, or I didn't do this,
right.
It's really important that, and they're going to think about, okay, my credits are going down. Also, if you're going to take a look on the profit, if we can degrade the profit, or if we put the costs up and the revenue down, in the end they're going to think, it's better to do something else because it's better to make money on the bounty, for example. Yeah. So we're coming back then to the alternatives. And in the end, we still have the last D, which is disrupt. Pull the plug of large DDoS websites. I don't know if you remember the webstressor.org activity.
I think I do. Yes.
Which was one of the largest DDoS platforms, and lots of law enforcement internationally worked together to find these guys. Which was actually one of the guys who was running was a 14-year-old boy, and he was already involved for 3 years. Wow. So think about it.
Clearly, he would have known what he was getting into. Right? It couldn't be just for the laws at that point.
I know his personal situation, and his personal situation was that this boy was from a family, and his parents were working very hard, and he was just such a nice boy because he was behind his computer, and what could go wrong? And when we spoke to him, it came really to his knowledge. If I have known this before, this was not my criminal path. And personally, it motivates me to help also those kids who went wrong. And the Dutch National Police started with a project called Hackright, I think 3-4 years ago, where we came up with the idea, if you are on the wrong path and you have been catched by us, we can put you behind bars because it's real money, it's real fraud. But does it make sense to put a 14-year-old behind bars? First of all,
it's not going to do him any good.
True, and it's also not very cost effective because put somebody behind bars is really a very expensive solution there. And there's the next thing. We have his specialty behind bars. We can't use his knowledge, give him a positive alternative, let him protect the world instead of attack the world. And we have seen even in other cases where they were also building a DDoS website, by the way. This guy is now change from attacking people with DDoSes by building a DDoS mitigation service.
That's nice.
And this is what you can gain if you just give them an alternative way. You educate them and you give them the positive alternatives you want them to have. And for me personally, it motivates me a lot. These stories, and that's the reason why I'm shining that much. And I'm really proud on the ability to do this.
Barry, I know you've made a difference at several levels in many people, right? Myself included. I learned a lot of new things speaking with you. I never had glimpsed into this area of cybercrime hooks and what cyber-enabled crime was and how the path led there. It is, I think, I had a very naive view of it, honestly speaking. And while you were narrating things to me, I was trying to project this. What would it be like in other societies in the world where the economics are different, where the backgrounds are different? There would be, greater or lesser susceptibility to it. How would this appear in different regimes? It's definitely, the time is now, we need to think about it. I'm glad you're in there because I know you can make a difference. You've always done that. And, thanks for being you. Thanks. This is super brilliant.
The thing you're mentioning is also an important thing for me. When we started Hacking the Cloud, for example, we said, okay, we want this to be available for free.
Yes.
And open source. So if everybody wants to use it, please use it. And we see other alternatives also working in this direction. Again, Hackshield, we're going to talk about it. They also have this motivation, let's feed the world.
Yes.
And from my personal perspective, but also I think from a police perspective, it's really important to take this as a world problem because cybercrime doesn't have borders.
Oh.
And that's also the reason why we work together with other parties, also in law enforcement, to see if we can do this on a higher level. But prevent is still a very, very young way of thinking for law enforcement. Because we are used to catch criminals, put them behind bars. And
see, this is the thing, even in cybersecurity, right? It's always been reactive.
Yeah.
You wait for the attack, you have the signature, you have the filter, you're catching it, but why not prevent it?
Yes.
We've all heard the saying, an ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure. I think, glad you're putting that into practice. That's awesome. But thank you, Barry. Thank you for joining me once again at yet another Hack in the Box, as we've always made as friends.
Well, for sure, and we don't know what our prevention will be in 5 years, but
we don't know. But I know we'll be there. This is, of course, a very endearing moment to me as well to see you folks again.